Majima. I feel like I have some controversial opinions regarding Majima. This might be due to me being a new Yakuza fan, thus I played the games in chronological order, not in release order. I'll end up coming back around to this later. So let's get right into it, and let's start with the big one, Yakuza 0 and Majima's character arc within. I guess we can't get into 0 without getting into the beginning of Yakuza 4 and Saijima's shootout. Majima and Saijima are just about 20 years old. We know close to nothing about Majima's childhood. It could be assumed that he had a rough upbringing or lived in poverty considering his desire for eloquence, I guess. I'm going off on a limb and saying Majima, Saijima, and his sister Yasuko likely knew each other in their teenage years. It seems he cares a lot for mainly Saijima and Yasuko. Being in a place of hardship, I'm sure that Majima just wanted to make it big and he wanted to be a big ol' Yakuza as a little kid. He possibly could have joined the Shimano family out of a bit of a desperation, or because Saijima had already joined a family. Because, to be honest, who would work for that man? Even his oath brother hates him. Saijima and Majima are ordered by their families to kill the Ueno Seiwa, a rival clan against the Tojo clan. Saijima arrives to carry out the hit, and Majima is cut off by some lackey named Shibata, who tells him that the hit's been called off. Majima doesn't want to abandon his brother, so he immediately disobeys orders. Saijima is sentenced to life in prison, and Majima is left at the mercy of the leader of his family, Shimano himself, which might be worse than life in prison, to be honest. So at the beginning of Yakuza 0, we have a Majima fresh from a cool year of being tortured non-stop, who has been isolated in Sotenbori from all of his allies. He basically becomes a pet of the Shimano family and the Tojo, and he works for this lovable sleazebag, Sagawa. In his intro scene and throughout most of the game, we see a Majima who wears a different mask than the Mad Dog we are familiar with. He's Sotenbori's Lord of the Night, who manages the Cabaret Grand. He's pooling profits for the Tojo in an attempt to get back into the clan. Presumably, this is so Saijima wouldn't know that he didn't betray him in the past. He wanted to stay in the Tojo until Saijima got out, so he would have someone waiting for him when he returns. Eventually, the money Majima's supposed to make from the Grand is not enough, and he's tasked with killing Makoto Makimura, who's supposedly a screwed up dude who forces girls into a prostitution ring. I think, based on Majima's interactions with Saijima, it's clear that he's okay with killing someone who he views as malicious, considering he's planned on wiping out a whole building full of people during the Ueno Seiwa hit. As it gets closer to our alleged Makimura, we begin to hear that he might not actually be so bad. When he meets a blind lady at Makimura's massage parlor, she beefs her boss up even more, going as far to say the man has God's hands. It would be a true sin to kill a dude with the greatest massage skills on the planet. Of course, we find out that our blind girl is Makoto Makimura, who is actually being protected by a dude named Lee, who is definitely not Saijima. That's a massive man. Plus, he can't be Saijima because he's Chinese. As much as Majima likes to think he's hot shit, he is really last week's breakfast. What? The themes and parallels early in Majima's story, they are really good. In retrospect, I can tell that RGG really wanted to do something with his character, and now they were finally allowed to in Yakuza 0. They did not hold back. This video will be really long if I went into only Yakuza 0 parallels. Majima's Irezumi is the Hanya, a feminine demon which represents the complexity of human emotions. We see that most characters who have in Irezumi, their stories can sort of be reflected by these tattoos. The Hanya has two emotions at all times, but only shows one, which comes to be Majima's Mad Dog persona. Majima's arc in this game shows him racked by confusion almost to the point of inaction. He has a good heart, and at the end of the day he doesn't want to kill any innocent person no matter the cost. He claims he'll go off and kill anyone for his clan, and then can't because he's a little friggin' piss baby. His personal morals and his deep belief in loyalty are beginning to clash. He doesn't even seem to recognize that he himself has a good heart deep down. At this point, he's starting to go off the rails. Whether or not that is good or bad, well, who knows? I think it's important to mention that Majima's story in Zero is racked with people who are kinda assholes, while Majima and Makoto are an example of two sides of good here. Even Lee is ready to kill an innocent girl to keep Makoto safe, while Majima wants to have his cake and eat it too. He's wrapped in a coil of betrayal and confusion, all because the Tojo wants to kill Makoto. I really like the way that Yakuza 0 uses stand-ins to make Majima's story cohesive, so as not to retcon anything too hard. It also allows the writers to do stuff like, this. I think it's pretty obvious that Lee is sort of a stand-in for Saejima. Lee is about the age that Saejima would be in Yakuza 4, and like Saejima, who will do anything for Yasuko, Lee will do anything for Makoto no matter how messed up it might be. Saejima and Lee both place a very large emphasis on loyalty. As we see in Yakuza 4, Saejima at the time of the Ueno Seiwa hit would not back down from doing the job, while Majima still can't bring himself to kill in Yakuza 0. Anyway, Lee fucking explodes, and we meet Nishitani as well. The weird, crazy Sigma male who is just pretty insane. He's a crazy guy. Anyway, I guess he gives Majima some pretty good advice. For all of its great elements, I feel like some plot points are a little rushed in Yakuza 0. The symbolism present here really pulls everything forward. That being said, Nishitani dies pretty quick and Majima doesn't really get as much of a chance to know him. Majima experiences lots of traumatizing things in a very fast amount of time, and I think seeing Nishitani die in front of him is kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. It also cements some things for him. I wouldn't say that Majima exactly sees Nishitani as a friend, but seeing him as something that he could easily become. We see the push and pull of the Mad Dog very clearly in the scene. The push of going balls out and living life to the fullest, and the pull of holding on to safety. The pull of maybe not dying in some grand blaze of glory. I'm not sure if it's purposeful, but Majima's intentions in Yakuza 4 literally involve possibly going out in a blaze of glory. Perhaps through all these interactions we are seeing that maybe he wasn't as ready for this life as he expected. Where someone like Kiryu had idols and such to guide him, Majima has nobody, and can only rely on himself to choose the right path. He's faced with so many different viewpoints, and maybe he's even confused on what the correct action might be here. The only thing that pushes him to defy the cruel masters of the Tojo clan is Makoto. But, big plot twist. Everything Majima's been doing has all been this bald fuck's plan. Our Majima, who had just been beginning to do what he thought meant freedom, finds out that everything he did was all part of the plan. Kinda like a dog. Or maybe even a mad dog. After Makoto is cooked by Lao Gui, Majima is finally able to access some of that free speech he's been waiting for so long. With his fists! It's at this point in the story that Majima plans on taking down all the Dojima lieutenants to set free Makoto from her shackles. Funnily enough, Majima blazing a path of his own allows him to gain Shimano's respect, and gain his own position under the Shimano family. This is basically a fulfillment of Majima's old goal, which was to be the baddest motherfucker alive. After everything he's been through, he develops this mad dog persona as a means of not being controlled by someone like Shimano ever again. The idea being that the mad dog's unpredictable behavior confuses or even frightens others, allowing him to operate how he wishes, when he wishes.
あんたには諦めんことの重要さを教わったわ。俺も執着するで。真島五郎っちゅう男の生き方に。
So, after like 10 minutes, we are done with the Yakuza 0 part of Majima's story. Reading this part of the video really reminded me how awesome the story of that game was. Unfortunately, the time between Yakuza 0 leading up to Yakuza 1 is probably when Majima's character is the most strained, but we will skip past that for now. In Yakuza 1, Majima is his normal, self that we are aware of. Barring Majima Everywhere, which I enjoy, Majima has only 2 important appearances. He acts more like a rival or foil to Kiryu when he appears, having an interesting relationship with him. Like his old Hanya, he almost acts like a jealous ex who just won't let Kiryu go. It's also nice to mention that he's probably at his craziest in this game. I will say I was a little perturbed from Majima's character in Yakuza 1 compared to Yakuza 0. Realistically, he goes from blazing a path of his own to this crazy guy who kidnaps a little girl and abuses his family members, which is something that Yakuza 0 Majima probably wouldn't have done. In Yakuza 2 and 3, he's much more reserved compared to his counterpart in 1, and sometimes I feel like RGG has this bad habit of trying to make their characters who are supposed to be liked a little bit too good. The reasoning of these characters being good people might be in part because they don't want to glorify the idea of being a Yakuza. If they had their main protagonists going around killing people and just kind of getting away with it, perhaps it would make it seem like they are glorifying the idea of being some crazy gang leader. I think that's why they lean hard into themes of loyalty, bonds, and legacy. From a character perspective, Majima being more crazy and maybe even somewhat villainous is one of his greatest traits though. It's made more into a joke, especially in the later games. It leads to a bit of a disconnect between the character he's made out to be versus how RGG wants us to think about him. So in Yakuza 4, Majima finally meets back up with Saejima and shows him what he's built in all their time apart. This is almost a payoff to what was set up in 0, and also acts as a very nice closer to Saejima's story. Honestly, if this was Majima's last contribution to the stories, I might have been a little disappointed, but I wouldn't feel the way I feel now. I actually like Yakuza 5. It's a crazy story from start to finish, and it can be a little tiring, but it was still a ride all the same. However, as somebody who played 0 before 5, the shit we hear about Majima in Yakuza 5, backed up by his character from 0, does not line up in the slightest. It's all because of this. It's all because of this park-shaped elephant in the room. From what I hear, Majima picked a fucking 17-year-old girl off the streets while he was like 25, and immediately married her while she was trying to get into the world of idols. He knocked her up and beat her when she got an abortion. Majima, I thought you were all about free speech and autonomy. How could you lie to me? Scratch all the dramatic voice. You telling me old blaze your path and follow your dreams Majima did all this? You telling me the same Majima that fought to near death with Saejima to protect Haruka's dream to become an idol did this shit? Even past the abortion stuff, I don't really know what the general thoughts about it are in Japan. Regardless, Majima still hit her, broke up with her, left her for 25 years, only to send a letter to her. Majima does not write letters, what the fuck? Also, he doesn't leave someone who is clearly in distress. Anyway, they wrote Yakuza 0, in my personal take, to be like, no guys, Majima loves women, we got Makoto. Majima loves women, check this out. Obviously that's not actually why they wrote Makoto in, but I definitely think that they were trying to fix some of the inconsistencies that were added to Majima's character in Yakuza 5. This goes back to, Majima's character inconsistencies within themselves. They've looked into troubled marriages with Somaya and Kiwami in Yakuza 6. RGG has continuously shown us a more messed up side of Majima, only to backtrack and show that he's really a good dude. I agree, Majima's a pretty good dude, but why are we continuously showing that he isn't, but pretending he is? Obviously, I'm not that passionate about all this. I still really like Majima, and his Yakuza 0 story is some of my favorite Yakuza content. With all this in mind, I think the one drawback of playing Yakuza 0 first in terms of story experience is that we get less Majima. His role is large in 0 and becomes smaller and smaller as the games go on. If someone was to play 5 and then 0 after, I think Majima's construction as a character from a writing sense would make a lot of sense. If we are given hints at a complex man beneath the surface in Yakuza 1 through 5, and then we finally see that man in Yakuza 0, it's pretty smart, I guess. Since I played Zero first, I got to see Majima as very best first off. He's implemented as more of a comic relief and side character in Yakuza 1 through 3, and as I was introduced to more characters, I began to care less and less about our own beautiful Mad Dog. I would say that his last great moment is in Yakuza 7. I personally love the boss fight against him and Saejima because of the insane difficulty jump. It makes sense that the difficulty goes up. It's fucking Majima and Saejima who are like top 3 in the Yakuza strength hierarchy. The idea of fighting old playable characters and genuinely struggling against them is so satisfying after playing all the games. Not to mention, it also showcases Majima and Saejima's teamwork and strong bond, which is something I wish we got more of. Of course, the boss in Infinite Wealth is great, but Majima, Saejima, and Daigo almost act more as a unit. They help to strengthen Kiryu's finale, and it reinforces an already great game. Be sure to watch my Kiryu video if you want to hear more about my thoughts on Infinite Wealth. Anywho, let's finally address the elephant in the room. My pirate Majima. Let's just call it Majima Gaiden for now. As of writing this, I'm part of the way through Chapter 3 of the game. Let's just start out by saying that from the trailers of the game, I was a little skeptical. Oftentimes, giving pre-established characters amnesia is a kind of a way of resetting them. In this case, it's almost a way of going away from Majima's darker side once again. We hear from Yokoyama himself that by giving him amnesia, it shows his truer self to a degree. By this, we mean Majima gives great heroic speeches while having amnesia. Almost like getting a Majima game without the Mad Dog. The complex side of Majima is stripped away, and we're left with... God. We're without the Mad Dog. We're just left with the pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. We're left with the pirate Yakuza. Pirate Yakuza that's in Hawaii. Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii! Okay. So now that I'm done with Majima's standalone game, what does Majima's game, what does it do for him? Not much. I guess this isn't a bad thing, but he acts more like a pillar of loyalty and hopes in the story than anything else. I find it to be a little contrived that a man with amnesia is spouting off about loyalty, dreams, and giving life lessons like it's no tomorrow. I understand him feeling like he owes a debt to Noah, but he has the personality of a more static character when his amnesia should make him more of a complex character. Like I mentioned before, it feels like the people who did the game felt written into a corner, so they gave him amnesia. Yeah, I have some issues with the development process of the game, to be honest. The entire game was an excuse to reuse the Hawaii area one more time before RGG retires it. Getting into my problems with the development of the game would extend this video unnecessarily, so we'll continue on. I enjoy some moments that show the more rugged Majima, when he threatens to cut off the fingers of Tucker, Shigaki, and Rodriguez. By this point, we are about 35 years away from Yakuza 0, and we missed the real transformation of Majima into the Mad Dog. It's sort of disappointing that we don't get to see him pushed to the limit as his character. It's just a really fun, silly pirate game with one of the most straightforward stories in the series. That's okay, I don't want to come off as one of those haters, it really is a good game. Just after seeing Zero and what they did with his character, I'm kind of disappointed Majima's character got reset more or less. If I had to suggest something, I would have loved to see more screen time from our main villains, the Queen, Raymond, and Mortimer. They end up being pretty basic, scheming, piss-eating villains, and they're greedy and vain and don't really have much more depth that is shown. Mortimer talks shit until we beat him in an epic battle. Then, as soon as he starts to be given some depth, he gets capped. The Queen is mean, vain, and wants money and stuff, and then she dies. And finally, the final boss is a greedy, lazy fuck who also dies. It's like there's 3 Jingus, bro. What the hell? I'm bothered by this because for every bland villain who likes money or whatever, there's a deeply written villain right behind him. We never really get that here. Developing these characters and maybe establishing some connections between Majima's old, forgotten life could show and explain his growth throughout the years, allowing for a good balance of fan service and a better story for newcomers. Do it like this. Establish connections. I could see Mortimer representing Majima's old, wild persona. For example, he could lead his pirate crew through fear like Majima has in the past. When Majima regains his memory, he could express some regret for acting the way he used to act to his clan members when he had his Majima family and later Majima construction. Lead to him explaining why it's shitty to lead by fear. We could do this even further with the other villains. Maybe tie in Raymond's obsession with the Esperanza treasure with Majima's obsessive behavior seen in the past with Kiryu. Maybe the Queen could represent his deep-seated hunger for power or vanity. I don't know, I'm not an RGG writer. Not saying the game had to be Yakuza 0 2 or anything, but RGG was very effective with thematic tie-ins when they wrote Majima's story for Zero. Establishing his flaws and showing how he got to the place he is now could allow the story to still do the crazy pirate story, but it would also add more depth to an otherwise straightforward story. We do get some bits where Majima deals with his past. He remembers parts of his life as a Yakuza and reflects on himself, realizing he wasn't a good person. In the early game, we see that he sort of is naturally loyal and wants to help people. From my perspective, this shows how the Mad Dog persona changed him and made him more rugged later in life. Maybe he started life as a good person who slowly changed throughout his life into a more complex man. We get to see his leader persona come out, which might harken back to Yakuza 4 and earlier games for longtime fans. I'm not saying he's stripped of all his character traits. They do deal with his amnesia surprisingly well. It's more of a consequence of the plot than a Majima's own character. They had to give him amnesia because his loyalty would cause him to simply leave Rich Island after he landed there. Maybe he would pay back Noah somehow, but knowing he has many who are counting on him in Japan, it would pretty much end the game immediately. At the end of the day, I have to praise RGG for trying something new and out of the box. I still love the different tone that was set, and game devs like RGG are what we need more of today. I'm not sure, man. I'm just a random dude on the internet, and at the end of the day, I still love Majima. He's still one of my top favorite characters in the Yakuza series. It's just disappointing that we don't see as much of him in games 1 through 8. Anyway, screw this video. RGG, give me Like a Dragon, Gangster Moneylender, and Vegas, and my life is yours. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, thanks. My channel is going through a bit of a soft reboot, and this is a re-upload because the last video got hit with copyrights due to music. This video was recorded in 2025, just after Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and I will be touching the controversy that is this in another video. That video will be a little bit more low stakes and personal, but be sure to look out for it. After that, that'll probably be the last Yakuza video in a while, but there will be more coming soon. And if you liked it, check out the Kiryu video I made. It's one of my favorites thus far. And also, like and subscribe and stuff. Bye.